Hello and welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's webinar will cover the MSc MedSci Clinical Pharmacology. We're joined by our programme lead and Alan's going to run through any questions that you have and do his best to answer them. If you've got any questions specific to sort of funding or your application, I'll pop some useful links into the chat box for you to get some help there. And we've also got our upcoming PG online event on the 3rd of March, and I'll pop the link in the chat as well for that. And please do use the chat box throughout to ask any further questions that you have. And we are recording the session, so don't panic if you miss anything or want to go back and watch anything back. We'll share that shortly after this session. So just to kick off, Alan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, my name is Alan Cameron. I am a consultant in clinical pharmacology and stroke medicine and lead the MSc in clinical pharmacology here at the University of Glasgow.
Perfect. And can you tell us a wee bit about the MSc programme?
Sure, yeah. So the MSc program's been running really for a number of years now. And it's a really interesting, enjoyable program that we find the students tend to get a lot out of, covering many aspects of clinical pharmacology, from some of the more fundamentals to some of the more clinical aspects, really with an integrative approach across that whole spectrum. And within that, we have expertise from across the College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences, providing education and resources related to those different domains. And we really do find that the students get a lot from the course and places them in a really strong pedestal to go on forward, whether that be into further aspects around academia, such as pursuing a higher degree like a PhD, moving towards industry, or even healthcare settings. So, yeah, a really strong and enjoyable course that we find the students get a lot from.
Great. Something we're always asked about is how often will I be on campus? How often will I be in class? And I know that will vary week to week, but is there such thing as like a expect this in semester one or semester two?
So it's quite varied. The classes, they're held across both the main university campus with a variety of in-person sessions. We try to deliver sessions in person wherever feasible. There is one aspect held at the main teaching hospital in Glasgow, which is the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. That's just a one-day session and good clinical practice. Aside from that, the classes vary in terms of the timetabling across the course of the week, but generally, we expect students to be available within the sort of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday element, although not if the entire week is populated by classes, as you would imagine, and there's plenty of time within that for self-study and educational development.
Perfect. And I think a lot of people are sometimes surprised at how much self-study is involved with a master's. There's not maybe as much teaching time or contact time compared to an undergraduate. So how much time are students expected to do themselves out with classes?
Yes, I mean, what we try to ensure we do is we provide the skeleton of resources that will place the students in a strong position to be able to do that self-directed learning. So we have contact sessions where we run over sort of the key elements that we would hope the students would take from each of the different modules and provide a variety of different topical resources that the students can then review at their leisure. And of course, the extent to which students will do that will vary from student to student. But generally a couple of hours for each module is sufficient, and there'll be modules where students will probably find particularly interesting and want to spend a good bit more time and delve into that in a bit more depth and detail. But generally, yeah, we'll have lots of resources that students can achieve the intended learning outcomes from each module, probably with an hour or two of self-study around it.
Perfect. I suppose it's like most things, isn't it? The more you put in, the more you'll get out of it.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And in terms of the research project, can you tell us a little bit more about that? So when students choose their topic, how they get a supervisor, and maybe some example topics if you know that off the top of your head.
Yeah, sure. So we have a number of different projects that are available, again, sort of harnessing all the the skills and expertise that we have across the College of Medical Veterinary and Life Sciences. Some of those would be lab-based projects, what we'd often call a wet-based project, or some which are more research-based or dry. We try to allocate students to a supervisor in a project that's of greatest alignment to the research interest wherever possible. Of course, with the sort of limitations, the number of students is not always entirely feasible, but we have a really good number of interesting projects which are made available towards the end of the second semester. Although if students have identified a particular supervisor, those links can be made much earlier in the programme, and it's actually something that we're aiming to move towards in future years, is really trying to identify any links from students and potential supervisors during the early parts of the year, so that we can align students with the projects that best meets their interests and future aspirations.
Great. We've also been asked, are there any opportunities to publish research or present at conferences?
Yes, absolutely. So, the summer project is a really good opportunity to be able to develop interesting findings that we would be very keen to support, outputs through publications, and we've had that for previous students during the masters.
Great. And in terms of the background of students, what kind of background do students typically have? Is it quite mixed or quite similar?
Yeah, so we have as you sort of allude to, a very mixed background of students. Some students who may come from, much more research-based backgrounds, some from perhaps a more clinically orientated background, but the general background is that everyone does have a basic underpinning knowledge of principles of pharmacology, be that from perhaps more a research-based element or perhaps more a clinical element, and then we build on that framework during the course of the master's programme.
Great. I suppose that's quite nice, isn't it? Everybody's got different backgrounds, that they've maybe got a different angle on things.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what we tend to find the students get a lot from during the course of the year, is those discussions and interactions with other students from different but aligned backgrounds, so they get the whole breadth of that experience and exposure.
Yeah. And in terms of preparing for the MSc, is there anything students starting in September could do to really set themselves up to get the best start?
I think, familiarising yourself, that, as you mentioned, people come from different backgrounds. Perhaps if you've been away from pharmacology for a period of time, just reorientating yourself with that, reading over the course handbook, thinking about the different domains that will be covered during the course, perhaps some light background reading and around those elements, and thinking about perhaps research projects that would be most interesting during the subsequent summer, and then starting to think about what the career goals would be after the MSc, so that what you're delivering during the year sets you in the best footing to move towards that thereafter.
Nice. And you kind of touched on it there, but what sort of careers do students go on to do after they graduate?
Yeah, so a wide variety. We have a number of students who may go on to pursue a higher degree, a PhD, often here within the College of Medical Veterinary Life Sciences at the University of Glasgow, if appropriate funding is obtained. Other students may go on towards careers in industry, would be in a very strong position to apply for posts within industry, and some people also into more healthcare orientated roles.
Nice. Um, One of the other questions we've asked is about assessments. So what kind of assessments can students expect throughout the 12 months?
Sure, yeah. So we have a balanced approach to assessment. So there will be some offline written assessments, some timed assessment, and some formal assessments also. Some of those are delivered during the course of the year, and then there's a final summative assessment exam in the April-May diet. So a balanced approach throughout the year.
Perfect. And if you do want a wee bit more information about that, all of our courses are linked on our programme web pages, so you can see, I'm sure the assessments are listed there for each of them. And something we're always asked, is it possible to have a part-time job alongside your MSc? I know that will be limited for international students in terms of how many hours they can work each week, but do you hear students that have got part-time jobs as well as studying?
So of course, yeah, it's quite individual dependent. As we mentioned earlier in the call, generally classes can be timetable, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, but timetables are made reasonably in advance. If students, out with those sort of core hours, feel a need and desire to have part-time employment, and then that's not something that's unfeasible, but just needs to be balanced with the needs and expectations of successful self-study during the course. So it's certainly possible, but just needs a balanced and considered approach to make sure that everything is well delivered and feasible.
Yeah, and throughout your sort of time at the university, you will get opportunities offered to you. Like there's actual paid work within the university as well as external jobs. Um, we're flying through our questions, so if you do have any additional questions, please use the chat box to ask those. I've got a couple more here that have been submitted before, so we'll run through those. But someone's asked if there's any collaboration between teaching hospitals and the clinical trials units.
So yeah, we do have some collaborations. As you say, a number of the supervisors for the projects and a number of the lecturers for the materials are based in some of the university teaching hospitals, clinical trials units, and some of the summer projects can even be aligned to those elements. So we do have nice links there that is our benefit to the students.
Great. And we've also been asked about practical work. Is there any practical work throughout the MSc?
Yes, there are some nice practical courses on some of the more fundamentals of pharmacology that are delivered by some of our colleagues within the School of Medicine and College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences, School of Cardiovascular Health. So yeah, it's a balanced approach and some nice practical elements that students get a lot from, particularly the wet projects also. If students are interested in a wet lab-based project during the summer, then that builds upon some of the practical elements that they'll be taught upon during the year.
Great. And one of the questions we've been asked is, can you clarify the balance between top modules and the research project in the MSc?
Yep, I need to refresh my memory on the exact details of that within the course materials, but that should all be available online, and we'll be able to signpost people to that accordingly.
Great. That is all my questions that we've had submitted beforehand, as well as ones that are commonly asked. So do use that chat box if you've got anything. Is there anything, Alan, that we've not covered that you think is important to mention while we've got some time?
No, I think we've covered the main things. It's just really the breadth and depth of the programme, exposure to lots of really interesting and topical aspects around pharmacology, harnessing all the skills and experience that we have within the college at the University of Glasgow, and really placing the students in a very strong footing to go towards successful employment and other opportunities thereafter, be that further opportunities within academia and research, be that industry or be that more healthcare settings. So yeah, a really enjoyable course that we find the students get a lot from.
Great. Well, we've not had anything else come through in our chat, so I think we can give everybody back some time in their day, which is always good. What I will say is if you think of any questions afterwards, don't worry, like you do still have a chance to ask those. We've got an email address on the programme webpage, so do send your questions via that, and someone in the team will get back to you. I suppose all that's left to say is thanks very much for taking the time to join us. Thanks, Alan, for taking time out of your busy day to sort of chat to us. And hopefully we'll see you all come September time. So thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.